What's up, guys? Today, of course, I wanted to talk about something that really separates players on the battlefield in general. And if you're tuning into this video, there's a pretty good chance that either you know this and you just happen to like my content, or you tuned in because you're looking to improve in the game. Or maybe this is a brand new FPS for you, it's completely different. So what it is, it's called situational awareness. I covered this in Battlefield 4 and you guys generally liked the video, so I'm going to do it again for Battlefield 1. It's a broad definition in general, but what it basically means dumbed down to the easiest way, but of course I'm going to incorporate all sorts of different elements and explain all sorts of different variables associated with it. Situational awareness basically is being aware of your surroundings, what's going on around you, and how you adapt to what's going on. So what it does is it breaks down into multiple components. The first is your minimap and your HUD. Combined, they both give you a great impression of the overall environment that's surrounding you. It gives you a view as to where the enemy is, as in terms of different elevations. Maybe they're above, below you, and I've of course covered this in separate videos in my quick tip series. As when you look at the minimap, how to tell the difference. It can tell you the enemy locations as long as they're spotted, which means, of course, that when you're playing, you should be spotting everything. And of course, if you're a scout, just pop those flares. It lights a whole area up. It's so good. It tells you where your teammates are. It tells you whether they're under fire or in danger. It doesn't actually show the bullets, but you can usually deduce that if someone's sort of taking evasive measures or jittering around on the map and he's trying to dodge bullets, you can probably deduce that more than likely he's under fire, and if he's close to you, maybe you should be aware of that. It tells you, of course, where the HUD tells you where the objectives are, which ones you have, which ones you don't have. When they're spotted, it tells you the locations of enemy armor, and it also shows you where the armor is on your screen, which is good because then it tells you that maybe you can spawn on a heavy tank, gives you a source of cover. Maybe it gives you a chance to get some extra points as it's pushing toward an objective. Maybe you can get out and try and help him from assault players trying to take him out. Or maybe if it's completely empty and nothing's around, then more than likely, or if there's nothing on the map that suggests that anything's attacking the tank, more than likely it means that area might be clear, so it's an easy place to spawn in on. So the HUD and the minimap are just vital pieces of information on your screen, and many times you can spot a player that's ignoring the info on the screen and just looking for kills, hunting people on the screen, because he'll just an enemy might just run right by you and the team, and the team just laughs and shoots him. When the minimap, if he looked at his minimap, it might have told him that he's crossing into enemy lines. So if you're looking to improve and you regularly don't use the minimap, that's the first step, I'd say. Is it's something that good players view very often, and again, if you're looking to improve, definitely peek at it more. Play a more slow and cautious style at first. So go to a cover, check the minimap, see if there's anything, then look out, move, find cover, and do it again. The minimap gives you so much information, don't ignore it, utilize it all. I can tell you for sure, I check every single time I get a kill. Unless there's two people, I have to kill both and then check the minimap. And especially before I move to a new area, or if that area seems too quiet, because there's a good chance that if it is extremely quiet, that you're behind enemy lines and it's not going to be quiet for very often. Or for very longer, I should say. It gives you a great idea of what you'll be expecting next, as opposed to going in blind, because you might say, oh, there's nothing on the map. What do you mean? Well, if there's nothing on the map, there's a good chance that, well, if there's no teammates around, that you're probably in enemy lines. It's only as good as you and your teammates with regard to spotting, however, so make sure you and your teammates utilize this effectively, and you'll light up the whole area like a Christmas tree. It'll be real nice. Next two, it gives you a really good idea of what the enemy will plan to be doing next based on the objectives. So say if a flag gets taken quickly, you know for sure that there were a lot of enemies on that burn, and many times they'll push toward the closest objective to them. Smarter teams might spread out. One will flank and go for one objective, and the other group will go to the one closest to them. But most of the time in public lobbies, players are lazy. They like going to the closest objective to them. So if a flag was taken quickly or an objective was taken quick, you can count that most of them are going to the one closest to them. And that gives you an advantage, though, because now you can set up, you can anticipate them coming in, and you can lay waste to them before they get the chance to really push in. You have the advantage as a defender, so remember that. You don't have to go meet them. They have to come to you. Also, of course, your teammates dying and disappearing from the minimap will tip them off as to where they're coming from. So if you're looking directly ahead and you see 2 or 3 teammates suddenly die to your left, good chance they're there. that's probably where they're going to be attacking from. It's not always foolproof, but the logic dictates that more than likely that's probably where they're going to be attacking from. So of course you can rotate as a result. The thing though with regard to Battlefield 1 is it's a bit diluted, the minimap, compared to Battlefield 4's version. So enemies don't appear on the map anymore when you shoot, as opposed to previous Battlefield games, which brings audio into more importance. If you hear a gun go off around you and there's no friendly player marker, you now know it's an enemy, so you can flank and kill him knowing this. It's really nice to have a surround sound headset because it gives you about 270, 300 degrees worth of audio all around you, so you can really pinpoint where it's coming from. It's not the best when it's right behind you, but it's really nice for audio cues to let you know what's going on. It's also great for music, so that's of course unrelated, but if you want to really pinpoint where, say you're listening to an orchestra or a band, you want to pinpoint where the instruments are, that's another reason for it, for the audiophiles out there. Second, knowledge of the map. You have to know where all objectives are, how far away from the main objectives you can be taking them, the best areas of covers associated with the capture points, flank angles to the objective. Popular areas are to where that objective is in popular cover, so think of it this way: if you would use that area as cover, more than likely an intelligent enemy is probably going to be using it too if the situation was reversed. You have to know where the vehicles spawn, how long it takes them to spawn, which flag areas contain vehicles. So say for example you're starting off in Sinai Desert. If you jump toward your gimme flag, you just get points. If you immediately attacked B, you might be able to give your team another tank. So again, that would help a lot more than just taking your gimme points. So that's something good to know. With regard to maps too, it's always good to know where the choke points and the hot spots are. Not only can you end up more kills this way, it gives you the opportunities to flank and get behind the enemy, and you can dictate the ebb and flow of the game this way. So say for example, if you get behind the enemy to back cap a flag when they're too busy wasting bullets at the choke point, it'll really help out your team. It'll also tell you where the enemy is, more than likely, or it'll tell you where the enemy isn't, is basically what I'm saying. So if they're all at that choke point, you can probably go to a flag behind them, because more than likely they're not going to be there. They might spawn in on you once they realize you're trying to take the flag, but they won't be there at first. So if you attack as a squad, that'll really help you out. Next too, you should also know where the elite pickups are per map. Of course, you can Google that and it'll tell you exactly where they are, which is nice. But it's nice to know where they are, because that way if you're taking a flag, you can take advantage of it. Or if you're trying to push onto a flag and you run into an elite, well, that's it for you. This is something too another one too. As I briefly mentioned, cover and where the good cover per map is the most fundamental part of situational awareness and map knowledge. Good cover keeps you alive, full stop. It's something you should absolutely consider all times. This is something you will learn pretty quickly while playing the maps. It's general logic there. Play the maps, you'll get a general sense. But that's why I usually, when I'm starting out a game, when it's brand new to me, I like exploring around. I like figuring out where new areas are, so that way when I come across it next time in the future, I know where to go. But of course, vary it up. You don't want to choose the same spot all the time, because if you're playing against an intelligent enemy, then they'll know exactly where you are. So, but it's knowing where a good point is. That's what you should do. If you know where all these points are per map and per objective areas, you give yourself a massive advantage against most opponents. Next too, you should also have an idea of where to go based on your loadout. So say for example, situational awareness comes into play here. If you have a shotgun, you have an extreme close quarters advantage, so that's where you want to stay. Sinai Desert shotguns, you want to stay in those buildings toward, I think it's C flag. If you have a shotgun and you're out in the open, you're dead. Good luck. With that in mind, you have a general sense of what the enemy is doing, or at least a smart one, and you have a general sense of your strengths and weaknesses based on the map. So pick a loadout that's best suited for a map's area, and you'll give yourself a good advantage. Or even if it has areas where it's close quarters or longer range, stick, like say you chose a shotgun, stick to the building areas. If you're in the open, choose maybe a medic or a sniper rifle. Best for you there. So number 3, how is the match playing out? Of course, not all maps are the same. Not all opponents in the server play the same way or are of equal skill. So you have to be able to adapt and adjust to the strategy that you're trying to do if it doesn't seem to be getting the results you want. So say perhaps you're trying to do something that isn't blending with your team, or your team doesn't see something. Like, say, for example, you're at a choke point, and all of a sudden your team gets a couple of different grenade kills. Instead of staying back and trying to farm more kills, if you knew that their entire front line got wiped, your team should now try and push. If you push up and take that new area and maybe take out and use your numbers advantage, then you can cover more ground, capture more objectives, get more points, and win the match. You just have to be readily aware of what's going on around you. If both your teams seem like you're gridlocked at one area and trying to take one objective, maybe flanking and going and backcapping a flag would completely change the ebb and the flow, because now you're the enemy team, if they were smart, would think, okay, they're trying to take a flag behind us, we have to retreat back and take that one that they're trying to take. But of course, this would detract from the previous objective, because now if 3 or 4 guys left to go and try to take the one you're backcapping, your team might have a 3 or 4 person number advantage trying to capture the original flag, which tilts the ebb and the flow in your favor. So be aware of what's going on around you and see if you can try and take something that will ultimately tilt the battle toward your advantage. That's the best way to go about it. Being very aware of what's going on in the map, as opposed to trying, like, say, fit a square peg into a round hole of, we have to take D, I will say it D the whole match. It's like, no. Try and take a flag to try and get the rest of the team off D, and then you might be able to take D. It's try to figure out why the enemy team is trying to take a flag as well. So say, for example, trying to take one individual flag will grant them a tank. Maybe that's a flag that you should be fighting harder to prevent them from getting the tank, and then maybe you can get that tank instead. It's being aware of what's going on around you. That's keep in mind that previously mentioned patterns, in addition to constantly observing the enemy to see if they're changing strats as well, because maybe they're not going to stay with the same strat, will give you a massive advantage in trying to counter it, as opposed to needing to react after they've started their push. So say, for example, you guys are stubborn and fighting for D flag. If all of a sudden you see your flag being captured from behind, maybe instead of trying to recapture your flag, you might try and push and retake a flag that's back capped for them. Like, you might go for their A flag when they're trying to go for your E flag. So it's, of course, the match varies, skill varies, but its predictability sometimes ends up getting you killed. And most of the time, the first logical course of action most people would do is, once a flag's being taken, they'll retreat back to try and get it. And sometimes that tilts their advantage, and it could work the same way for you. But other times it's the opposite. If you decide to further advance and further push into their territory, if 1 or 2 guys from your team spawn back and kill the guy trying to backcap you, all of a sudden they're in serious trouble, because it means that you're going to have a numbers advantage for D, and you're taking their back cap, so they have to really make a choice. Lastly, what does all this info do for you? The obvious one is that it helps you become less of a reactionary player and more of an instinctual player, and it gives you the advantage in terms of timing and anticipation. And a lot of the time, you don't have to have the best aim or the fastest reaction time. If you are aiming down sights on an area that you know the enemy's going to be coming from, if he's already full sprint, you have him dead to rights even if your aim isn't the best. If it takes you an extra shot or 2 to kill him, great. You still have the advantage there. Positioning is great players with great aim are going to be good no matter what. But even if you're an average player, if you can anticipate what the enemy team is doing mixed with average aim, you're going to have much, much more success than if you're playing a reactionary, oh shit, I'm in mid-sprint and I have to turn and shoot. If you're stationary aiming down sights because you anticipate the enemy coming down, say, a tightly packed corridor, oh man, you're going to feast on the kills. So you want to play a non-reactionary game is basically what I'm saying. Reduce quick twitch reaction encounters and you will improve substantially. If you play with a reactionary style, you can have great success if you have skill, but more than likely you're going to die more often no matter how skilled you are, because you just can't cover 360-degree angles around you and anticipate all enemy encounters. Having said that, of course, one thing you should bear in mind is that you are going to guess wrong sometimes. You're going to get it wrong. You're going to have off days. Being an infantry, you can be an infantry player clearing off a flag, doing great, and then all of a sudden a tank rolls up. Or other times you could just you could clear a flag, you could kill 3-4 guys, and all of a sudden an enemy plane bombs you. It's part of the game. You won't get it right every time. It's that rock paper scissors dynamic, though, that builds frustration, but also fun, and what probably brings you back. It's that unpredictability factor. So take the good with the bad, and always try to improve. If you liked the video, please leave a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and share it with someone if they feel their situational awareness is lacking. Have a good one, YouTube.